איפה אנחנו? איפה אנחנו?
בעצם גם היא צריכה להחזיק.
לא.
לא משנה.
איך זה בדרך כלל?
כאילו למה יש חמישה כיסאות?
אני חושב שהוא חשב שמגיעים לזה
Testing, testing. We're going to get started in just a moment. I wanted to just let people know there's quite a few more chairs up here. Feel free to come up front and take a seat. We're going to get started in a minute. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. This song, this beautiful song, which we just sung in Hebrew, translates in English as how good and how pleasant when siblings dwell together in unity. And I look around this room, and I'm so humbled to be standing before our united group. While we are very diverse and have diverse feelings and opinions, tonight we came together in unity. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. You know, if you've ever made, it's dinner time right now. If you've ever made pasta for dinner, let's imagine you're making fettuccine for dinner. You open up the box of fettuccine. If you take out one strand, it cracks easily. Any of my kids could do that. and they do it all the time. But if you take the entire box, the family-size box, you open it up and you take the whole thing in your fists and you try to crack it in half, it's very hard. It's almost unbreakable. And that's what's so special about unity. Let's sing again. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. So what is really so special about unity? Jewish Kabbalistic teaching explains that each and every one of us has two souls. There's the soul that's more self-serving, the part that reminds us to eat and take care of ourselves. I might call it the animalistic soul. And then there's the godly soul, the giving soul, the part of us that's always encouraging us to do better, to do good. And those two souls, they sometimes compete with each other for our attention. And that's what's so special about unity, because in our room today we have a force of all of our godly and giving souls together, coming together to stand together with our dear friends who are hoping and praying for the safe return of their loved ones, our friends who are here from all the way from across the world, from Israel. They're hurting. And even though we may be very different from each other on the external, we put our giving soul, our godly soul first tonight. And with that energy, we're unbreakable. You know, if I would get up here at this podium and start sharing any political view, I'm sure I'd be much safer with a helmet than a soft kippah. But tonight, it's not about politics. It's about supporting people that are hurting, that are missing their loved ones. Their loved ones are hurting, and we're going to do whatever we can to bring them home. We're so honored and humbled to have you here tonight, and we hope that the force of unity today will only aid and assist the miracles that need to come your way. I want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank everybody who helped make this gathering what it is. I want to thank all the people across the community that invited their friends to come and stand together. And I want to thank John Birch of Spirit Born Productions for lending a hand and getting us technically together and live streamed, to the security guards, to ASC Security, to Yulia and Tal, and Rabbi Seth Goldstein, and everyone who supported and contributed in order for this to be possible. I'd like to ask Rabbi Seth to come forward and share a few words and lead us in Psalm 23.
And thanks to you, Rabbi Yosef, for hosting this gathering, this important gathering this evening as we come together. And we know we're just on the eve of Tu B'Shvat, right, when we celebrate the trees and renewal of nature, and that's our fervent prayer that we see a new bearing fruit as we move forward, as we pray for peace, we pray for release, and we pray for goodness moving forward. I didn't know if it was up there or not, but invited to lead us in Psalm 23, a common psalm that we recite, and it's a psalm that reminds us that even in our most darkest times, that we are not alone, that we are, as Rabbi Yosef said, connected with one another in unity with each other, and that we recite this psalm, reminder that even in our darkest times, we are not alone. We have each other, we have God, we have Spirit in our traditions, and that we should know that through that knowledge, we can be strengthened, and uplifted. So we'll recite the psalm if you could. That's a little fuzzy, but I invite you to join to set your intention with me for knowing too that as we recite this psalm together, that is a reminder too that we are not alone as our voices join together. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, bino deshe yarbitseni, almei menuchot yachameni, nafshi yashovev, yancheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech b'geitz al mavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi, shiftecha mishantecha, hema yachamuni, ta'aroch lafanai shochan neged sorai, dishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya, achtov v'chesed ridfuni kol yimei chaye, v'shavti b'beit Adonai le'orech yamim. And if you could see the English on the slide, I'll invite you to join with me as well. Psalm of David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. He lays me down in green pastures, he leads me beside still waters, revives my soul, directs me in paths of righteousness for the sake of his name. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You will prepare a table for me before my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup is full. Only goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. Katie, here at so, and may it be so that we only have goodness and kindness moving forward. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Yosef.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldstein. We're honored to have here with us some friends from the community in Tacoma, and I'd like to ask Rabbi Kesselman, Director of Chabad Jewish Center of Tacoma, to lead us in the next Psalm, Psalm 130. Sorry that the image isn't the clearest. He'll do it in the Hebrew and the English.
Shir Hamaylos Mimamakim Krasicha Adinai Adinai Shima Bekoili Tiyena Aznecha Kashuvois Lekol Tachanunai Imavoinais Tishmaria Adinai Miyamait Kim Chaslicha Laman Tivare Kivisi Adinai Kivsa Nafshi Vilidvare Hechalti Nafshi Ladinai Mishaimrim Labaiker Shaimrim Labaiker Yachel Yisrael El Adinai Kim Adinai Achesed Vaharbe Imay Fidus Vuhu Yiftes Yisrael Mikoil Avenaisav. I'll say it now in the English.
The next one on the screen.
A song of ascents. Out of the depths I call to you, O Lord, my Lord. Hearken to my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the sound of my pleas. God, if you were to preserve inequities, my Lord, who could survive? But forgiveness is with you, that you may be held in awe. I hope in the Lord. My soul hopes, and I long for his word. My soul yearns for the Lord, more than those awaiting for the morning, wait for the morning. Israel, put your hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is kindness. With him there is abounding deliverance. And he will redeem Israel from all its iniquities.
Thank you so much. We're going to do one more prayer, which is dedicated for the immediate and speedy release of those being held captive. Brothers and sisters, and John, if I can ask you to put the next image, number 3, on the screen. If you know the words, feel free to sing along with us. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael, Acheinu kol beis Yisrael, Hanisunim batzara, batzara ubashivya, haimdim bein bayam ubein bayabasha. Hamakayim yirachem, yirachem aleihem, v'yayitziei mitzara, lirvacha umeyafei laliyayra, umishibud legeyula ashta, bagala uvizman kariv, amakayim yirachem, yirachem aleihem, v'yayitziei mitzara, lirvacha umeyafei laliyayra, umishibud legeyula ashta, bagala uvizman kariv. Join me in the English. Our brothers and sisters, the whole house of Israel who are in distress and captivity, who wander over sea and over land, may God have mercy on them and bring them from distress to comfort, from darkness to light, from slavery to redemption, now, swiftly, and soon. I'd like to ask the members of our friends who are visiting from the land of Israel to come join us on stage as we give them an opportunity to share the difficult stories that their loved ones are going through. Should we shut it off or leave it?
They're on. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to Bet Chabad for organizing and hosting this lovely event. Thank you to Rabbi Yosef Strauch. Thank you to Matthew Perry. Thank you to Rabbi Mendy Goldschmidt and Rabbi Mendel Kesselman, and all of you for being here. After October 7th, what Israel needs more than anything is friends. The hostages were taken captive from different ethnicities and religions. It's beautiful that amidst so much pain and agony, we can all come together as one, regardless of political opinions and religion. Before anything, we are first and foremost human. The hostage issue isn't a political crisis, it's a humanitarian one. The 136 hostages still in captivity were taken from their most vulnerable and intimate places. They did nothing but wake up to a regular morning, to what they thought was a regular morning. It's a crisis for Israel today and tomorrow for the rest of the world. We need to unite, setting aside our differences, and fight for humanity. The hostages in captivity have no time. As you listen to the speakers, I encourage you to reflect on how you'll act, why you came here today, and what you're going to do with what you hear. Let's stay united and together as one, because it's only in this way that humanity prevails. Most importantly, Israel and the families here today need our friends. So before we advance, I wanted to ask you all to keep this event strictly non-political. As I've said before, and I emphasize, this is a humanitarian crisis. There's still 136 hostages in Gaza, and they span from 20 different nationalities. And before I let you hear the stories of what happened to these families on October 7th, I want to tell you a little bit about October 7th. So October 7th was the most brutal and horrific attack committed on Israel ever since the Holocaust. Something like 3,000 terrorists roamed into Israel with in the intent of annihilating Jews. 1,400 people were murdered on October 7th, and over 240 people were stolen, some of them from their homes, some of them from a music festival. Like I said before, they were in their most intimate and vulnerable places. There were people who didn't even have the chance to brush their teeth, and they found themselves in Gaza that morning. People were raped, decapitated, burnt alive. They even used gas that was meant to burn people faster. I said decapitated, but I didn't specify that 40 babies were decapitated. Babies were burnt in the oven. They were baked in the oven. People were mutilated. People were butchered. It took over 2 months to identify bodies because they were so badly burnt they weren't able to find any DNA. I know this is not at all easy to hear, but I'd like to share one or two stories with you just so you can understand to what extent these animals acted on October 7th. There was that morning a party with, I think, over 3,000 people who attended, right? It was a music festival, peace festival. People came to celebrate life and love. It was really beautiful and peaceful. And Hamas interrupted the party at around 6 a.m. after the missiles started coming into Israel. One story, for example, is a woman was raped by something like 17 terrorists. Her boyfriend was forced to watch with a gun to his head, and she was also obviously with a gun to her head. There's other stories that terrorists raped women, and excuse my language, but before they were able to finish, they murdered the women. There were also rape stories in which the terrorists cut off women's breasts and threw them over and paraded them in the air while or after they raped them. The stories are endless. There were families that were sitting around the table, and each one was mutilated. The mom's breasts got cut off, the dad's eyes was removed, the child's fingers was cut off. Israel's a really, really tiny country. Everybody knows each other. And just for you to get some proportion on what happened on October 7th, the attack was the equivalent of around 40 to 50,000 deaths in America in 9/11. 40 to 50,000 deaths. It was brutal. Now I'll pass the stage to the families so that you'll hear their tragedies firsthand. Let me introduce to you Yuda Cohen. Thank you. And Romy Cohen, sorry, and Arel Sharabi. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Yehuda Cohen. I'm the father of Nimrod Cohen. This is my son, age 19. I'm here with my daughter, Romy. She will tell the story of my son. I want to start talking about, when we talk about Hamas, Israel, what are we really talking about? I mean, let's get some proportion. What is Israel? Israel is a small country. What do I mean small country? The width of the country is something between 17 kilometers to 100. Depends, north, south. The height of Israel from north to south is about 500 kilometers. Among that, we're talking about terrorist group Hezbollah in the north in Lebanon. In the south, or more to the west center, we're talking about Gaza Strip. We're talking about an area of 60 to 9 kilometers, where actually it's not a state. It's a territory that is ruled by a terrorist organization called Hamas. I will try to talk about Hamas in a minute. And we're talking about, if we go way south, we're talking about Yemen, the Houthis, you heard about them, which are launching missiles against us. Why? I don't know. We don't have a border between them. And in the east, beyond Jordan, we have Iraq, which Iranian terrorist organization are sitting there, waiting to get the opportunity to shoot missiles on us. And of course, we have Iran, which is the center of all this hatred. We can add that to Syria, that Iran is controlling the area. So now let's zoom in about Hamas. What is Hamas? Hamas is an organization started as a social organization way back in the beginning of the 80s of the previous century. And then turning slowly to a terrorist organization. And jumping to the beginning of the 21st century, I'm talking about 2005, when Israel decided to fully withdraw from Gaza. That means, okay, we're out of it, this is your land, good luck. The Palestinian Authority was ruling there. After that, there was election in the Palestinian Authority when 66% of the vote went for Hamas. That means the Palestinian voted for Hamas. All right, it's their right. Democrat is Democrat. A year after that, 2007, the Hamas forcibly took over control on Gaza. They were pushing officials of the Palestinian Authority from high, tall buildings way to the ground or shooting them. They took over. Okay? Now, from that year, I'm talking about 16 years back, all their efforts, not to control this territory of Gaza for the good of the people who live there, all their efforts went for armory, which means developing missiles, gathering and manufacturing RPG missiles, starting to dig tunnels. And this grew and grew in the last 16 years with a little big operation against Israel, missiles here, missiles there. You can, if we put it a long story short, we can say that through this 16 years, Israel, as an independent country, suffered from missiles along those 16 years, either for close range, villages around the Gaza Strip, or far, even going up to Tel Aviv, which is the center of Israel. So we have, I said villages, and we'll hear the word kibbutzim. Kibbutz is a small community village, something around a few hundred to 1,000 people living there. Most of the inhabitants along the Gaza Strip are kibbutzim. And people there live peacefully. Some of the kibbutzim, curved on their flag, peace. Many members of the kibbutzim are peace activists. Many of them are actually devoted their time of helping people from Gaza. Goes all along, even taking children from Gaza and driving them to Israeli hospitals for treatment. That was their activity. They just wanted to live their life, live and let be. Then comes the 7th of October, without no reason, after many efforts from the side of the Israeli government for keeping the peace, giving more job permits for Gazians to work in Israel, letting more money go into Gaza, so for the wealth of the Gazian. On a Jewish holiday, with no reason, Hamas attacked Israel. Attacked Israel, this means that they started withdrawing missiles. They knew that Israel is pretty much used to that, but that was a decoy for an invasion, as Leslie said here, of 3,000 terrorists, and the rest you pretty much know. So this is the background. And when we want to say that, why do we have to suffer that? What was the reason for Hamas invading Israel? I will end before I'll let my daughter talk. There was asked me what it's like to feel as a father of a kidnapped son. And this is something that is very painful. Obvious to say that I was never got prepared for that. It came suddenly, and it came suddenly. And this is a shock, a continuing shock. Well, comparably, you know, when you have a son that is killed through a nature cause or being murdered, as hard as it is, it's the end. You know it's the end. You have the body, you bury it, you mourn, and you know that's the end. Now, when your son is kidnapped, and taken captive without any information about his situation, this is a nightmare. It's a nightmare in terms of the first days, you just don't know what to do with yourself. You are paralyzed. There's no day, no night. What's the meaning of food? I mean, what's the meaning of life? You're just out there in the air. You don't want to believe it. It's me. I heard about stories that people are kidnapped and their parents went through a big crisis. It's happening to me now. This is something that it's hard to believe, hard to describe. But then I still have another daughter, another older son, and I have a wife. We need to function because we are people. I don't know how to describe it. So you start picking up your pieces, and then you have to start fighting. And what we do here is to fight. I came here to fight for my son. And I will even describe it in more bold words. I will go everywhere in the world to fight for my son. We came here 9,000 miles to say our words, to spread the words that we need the world to help us. And as Leslie said, this is a humanitarian situation, humanitarian case. We need all the help we can get to get our beloved, to get my son back. So I came here to spread the word, and I would let my daughter now tell our story. Thank you very much.
Hi. First, thank you for coming and for being here. My name is Romy Cohen. I'm 19 years old. This is Nimrod Cohen, my twin brother, who is now kidnapped in Gaza for 109 days. So I'll start with telling you my story, how my day started on October 7th. I live in Rehovot, which is a city in the center of Israel, And like almost every house in Israel, we have a safe room because it's not new. It's not new that we get rockets fired at us. So at 6:30 in the morning, we got into the safe room because we heard the sirens. And we were in the safe room for 2 hours, which is not something that is usual. And we knew that my twin brother Nimrod, is around the area of the border with Gaza. So we texted him. We wanted to know if everything is okay. And as time went by, we saw videos of what happens there, and we heard about the attack of terrorists, which is insane. And we didn't get any response from him. And for a few hours, we had no idea what was going on with him, knowing about the invasion, knowing that the whole area in the south of Israel is full of terrorists, and we have no response. And just imagine for a few hours, which sounds maybe not a lot, but for me it was forever, knowing nothing, and you try to call anyone you know, and nobody knows. And after a few hours, we went online, and we saw a video that was released by Hamas on YouTube. And in that video, you can see Nimrod. You can see how he's being taken captive. And I remember the moment recognizing his face, and I just froze. I just froze because the worst thing ever just happened to me. And I remember just thinking to myself, I wish I knew this because I heard it, because someone told me, but I saw it. I saw his face when the terrorists took him and pushed him to the ground, and how they humiliate him, and how scared he is. You know, he has no idea what is going on, and I'm at home, so far from him, knowing that there's nothing I can do, and this is happening right now. And since that video, after 2 days, we were informed by the IDF that he is kidnapped in Gaza. And since then, for about 50 days, we had no information, not a single detail about where he is, if he eats, if he's alone, if he sleeps, nothing. And after the first release of some of the hostages, which was about 50 days after October 7th, we started hearing about what happens there to hostages, about testimonies. And honestly, I don't know if it's better or worse, if it's better to know nothing or to actually know what happens there. So we heard that, well, on October 7th, you know, people were raped, beat up, heads were cut off, body parts were cut off, horrible things. And you'd think it was only on that day, but we hear that it's still going on. These hostages, they're not just far from home. They are still getting beat up, they're being tortured, and both women and men get sexually abused. Even right now, we're sitting here, and they are hostages who are human beings in captivity right now, who get beat up and sexually abused. And we hear about stories of girls my age, 19 years old, who are still held in captivity for over 100 days, who were forced to take a shower and the terrorists watch them, or if they want to go to the bathroom, they have to ask for it. They don't necessarily get the permission to do so, but when they do, they get touched on the way. And there was a story that one of the hostages that were released, that she told that one of the girls, she came back from the bathroom and she was crying because she said that a terrorist touched her. And the other woman wanted to hug her, to be there for her, but they didn't let her. They say, you sit in the corner and you cry and nobody will hug you and you will be alone. And this is real and it's still going on. And as a twin sister, I can't tell you what it makes me feel. And knowing that there's a girl my age, and it could have been me. It could have been me. And I'll tell you a little bit about Nimrod. This is a picture of us. I don't know if you can see. This is a picture of us when we were 8, I think. And I never thought that my only wish would be to just hug him again. Because for over 100 days, I only see him in pictures. And we were always together. We were always two. We were always Romy and Nimrod, and now I'm just Romy. And I worry about him, and I'm scared, but I just miss him. I just miss him. I just want him home. And when we were little, we used to share a room. Each had their separate bed. But every night I used to go to his bed because I wanted to be as close as I can to him, to sleep with him. And now I can't even hug him. And I pass by his room and it's empty. It's empty for over 3.5 months. And it's just hard. We were always two and now I'm just one. Me and my family were not complete. And I know people think that men are strong, but you know they're not. You know that for that amount of days, they're not. And as I said before, they're just human beings, and they shouldn't be there. And they're innocent people. They should be home. And I think one of my messages is that they don't have time, because every day that goes by, we hear about more hostages that are murdered in captivity. And I don't know, maybe tomorrow I will wake up and I get the worst message of all. I don't know. And I'm here to ask for help. I want you to be the voice of my brother because he doesn't have a voice, and I'm here to talk about him and to show that he's not just a poster, he's a human being, and he has a family and friends who are waiting for him. And personally, I don't sleep well and I don't eat well knowing he's there, but whatever I'm going through, I can't imagine what he is going through. So please, don't forget the hostages. There are still 136. We don't know who's alive and who's not. And I wish he is. I really wish. And thank you for being here and listening. We really appreciate it, and we need your help. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Ariel, I'm 16, and these are my two uncles. This is Yossi, and this is Eli. Sorry. And we keep Shabbat, so on October 7th, as always, my dad went to the synagogue, sorry. He went to the synagogue, and when he came back, a neighbor knocked on our door and asked my dad to step outside. I don't know exactly what he told him. I just remembered that my dad went totally pale. And a few moments later, my parents sat us all down and told us about what was going on. And I was like, okay, 4 or 5 terrorists breaking into Israel. I thought that the IDF was on it, but apparently not. Later on, we'll find out that it was about 3,000 terrorists. And, 3,000 terrorists broke into the south of Israel, to the kibbutzim there. And in one of those kibbutzim, my 2 uncles used to live. Eli was murdered. Let me tell you a little bit about Lian. She was 38, and she was a dentist. And she always made the kids come happy to the clinic, and she always smiled and laughed and had a beer in her hand. She was British. And yeah. And whenever I think of her, it makes me smile. 2 days after that, we were told that Eli's daughter, Yael, who was 13, was also murdered. A week and a half after that, we were told that Noya, Eli's older daughter, who was 16 and my best friend, was also murdered. Just imagine getting this bad news after bad news after bad news, and it doesn't stop. And imagine burying your 16 years old best friend. There's no words to describe this. We prepared to bury them all, and we also prepared the grave for Eli because we knew that they were all at the same house. But God had other plans, and 3 weeks after not knowing what was going on with Eli, the IDF came to our house and told us that Eli was kidnapped and not killed. We were pretty happy because the other option was worse. So, and we also got information we also got on the same day the information that Eli was still alive, but it's 3 months now that we know nothing about him. We don't know if he eats, if he sleeps, if he's in the tunnels, or that he's being tortured and sexually abused. We don't know anything. And my dad just so worried about his brother, his big brother. My dad is the youngest brother, and Eli and Yossi always used to call him and ask, hey, do you need anything? Are you okay? Do you want to come for a coffee? This is just... Okay, I'll move on to Yossi. So on October 7th, the terrorists broke into their home, and they took my uncle Yossi and my cousin's boyfriend Ophir, who is 18, and they got them all to get in the car, and they left his family on the grass. And his family just stood there and saw their loved ones are being taken captive. I can't, it's unimaginable. 54 days after October 7th, there was my cousin's boyfriend Ophir came back on the first round of the negotiation, and he told us that he was with Yossi this whole time and that Yossi was fine under their circumstances. And a week ago, there was a video that went viral on Telegram that was released by Hamas. And through that video, you can see Yossi's corpse. And this is how we had to find out with the whole world about Yossi's death. And my dad saw this video, and this is the last picture, this is the last thing he's gonna remember from Yossi. This is how everyone is going to remember him for the rest of their lives. How can 3 daughters and a wife continue their lives without a dad, a husband? We didn't have a funeral because there's nothing to bury. And my family just finished sitting Shiva, and they grieved now, and they still are, but I know we're gonna grieve twice when his corpse comes back, hopefully. This is just 2 times harder. Thank you all for being here and listening to our stories.
I just want to add to Arel's story of how we found out that Yossi was murdered. So more than just physical torture, Hamas also is inflicting a lot of psychological torture to the hostages. And what happened is that the night before it was revealed that he was murdered, they released a video of 3 hostages begging to come home. And then they released another video that night, and the second video had 3 different pictures of Yossi and 2 other hostages, Noar Gamani and Itai Svilsky. And the caption read, "Who do you think is injured? Who do you think is alive? Who do you think is dead?" And they were just like, they edited the video. And then the next day, the video came out where you saw Yossi's corpse and the fact that he was murdered, and there's also indications that he was tortured.
Thank you so much for opening your hearts and sharing these heartbreaking and devastating stories. We are all praying for miracles. I was wondering if any of you would be comfortable sharing anything that you might know about where they're being held, current conditions. Is there anything any of you would want to share?
So from hostages that came back, we can learn that some of them were held in houses, and some of them were held in, and still are held in tunnels underground, many miles underground, with no air, no sunlight. And we know that they get a little piece of bread a day if they get something, and a little glass of water. And we also know that they pee in bottles, and also that some of the hostages are injured if it's either from October 7th or after, and they don't get any treatment. We know of one woman who was shot in her hand, and she has a hole in her hand, and she didn't get any treatment. And her hand is not moving anymore, and she's still there. And also about another hostage whose arm was blown off because the terrorist threw hand grenades at him. And these people are still there. And also as I said about the girls, also the boys, about how they abuse them, the terrorists abuse them. A few days ago, we heard the testimony of one hostage that came back, and she said that they took clothes, inappropriate clothes, and they told the hostages to wear them, and they just used them as puppets. They told them what to do, and they control them, and they put a gun against their head, and they tell them what to do. And also they use psychological terror. They tell them, nobody's fighting for you, you're gonna stay here for the rest of your life, nobody loves you. And knowing that when I'm here and they are there, it's just hard, knowing there's nothing I can physically do. So I hope you spread these stories and let the world know what is really going on there. And when I don't know if you saw, but when some of the hostages were released, there were videos showing how they get on the ambulance of the Red Cross, and you can see them waving, but it's only because they put a gun against them and they tell them to wave, so the world would think that they are okay and they were taken care of, but they weren't. And I'm sure there are many stories that we haven't heard and are worse, and they're in bad conditions there, no hygiene, they don't take showers, some of them weren't taking showers, some of them were alone the whole time. One hostage that came back after 50 days said that she was 50 days alone in a room when one terrorist sitting in front of her, watching her, every move she does. And I can't imagine what they're going through. And I just wish these stories to end, and so they will all come back alive as fast as possible. And I'm sure their healing will take a lot of time, but first we want them here safe. Thank you.
I just want to add, as a father, when the time will come, if it will come, and I hope it will come, that my son will come back, I always think, what will I get back? In what condition, physically and psychologically, my son will be? I don't know what's going on with him right now. It's terrifying me. But when they will return, when my son will return, it won't be the end. Because I don't know what I'll get back, what damage was done to him, physically and mainly psychologically. This could be a handicap for life. So, to add it up all, we don't know what his condition now. We don't know what the condition will be when and if I will get my son back. And we don't know after that how long we as a family should have to struggle to bring him back to normal life. So this is the situation we're standing at. And we want to end it as soon as possible, because not that only we want to end it as soon as possible, which is obvious, as long as it takes, the damage will be greater. Thank you.
So I'll conclude. In Israel, and especially for the families, it's till October 7th. Ever since October 7th, the families haven't had the chance to grieve nor to digest what's happened, because they still have relatives in captivity, and also because they've been in front of cameras. and flying from delegation to delegation. And they've been doing so much, but at the same time, they feel like they're not doing anything. So we encourage you to join our fight. We encourage you to promote this cause passionately, to share stories on your platform, to amplify their stories through your influence. You know, there's the 3 degrees of separation, and we are all somehow connected to everyone in the world by 3 degrees of separation. So please leverage your network, speak to anyone, even if it's if you think it doesn't make a difference or you think it could make all the difference, anyone is amazing. And all signs point to America as the most influential party in the negotiations, and you are all America. So I encourage you, please, to call your representative daily, email your representative daily. You know, we're all privileged to be able to sit here with warm clothes, proceed afterwards to a meal, and the hostages are obviously not capable of doing this. And just like we're privileged to be able to use all of our basic rights, we are also privileged to pick up the phone and open our laptops and send an email. So I encourage you to do that. And most importantly, these stories must remain at the forefront of everyone's agendas. So please remind everyone, don't let anyone forget, amplify these stories, echo the voices of those who are not here to tell the stories. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leslie and Yehuda, Romy, Harel. Thank you for opening up and sharing this most difficult, horrific, circumstances that your loved ones are in. I'd like to ask my wife and the co-director of Chabad of Olympia, Rivki, to give some words in conclusion.
Please. Should we step down? Sure. I mean, either way. If I can see you, I'll look at you. Whatever you're Friends, we are gathered here today because a part of us is hurting. Our nation is compared to a single body. While outwardly we are separate, our souls have a shared core that connects and fuses us all together into one entity, like one single body. Indeed, every human was created in the divine image and shares a spiritual bond that is connected despite the farthest of distances. In medicine, there are 2 ways we can tackle an illness. The first is by focusing on the limb that is ill. And the other way is by looking at the entire body and strengthening the body, which by extension will bring healing to the ill limb. We just heard the heartbreaking stories of our dear brothers and sisters being held in captivity. All of us here can help with the second method of healing, strengthening our collective body. Jewish wisdom teaches that because of our spiritual connection, every mitzvah every single act that we do can affect change across the world. The Hebrew word mitzvah has two meanings: commandment and connection. While the mitzvot are commandments, they are also our channel to connect with one another and to connect with God. Every additional mitzvah that we do in the merit of the hostages can help bring them blessings and deliverance. There are so many mitzvahs, so many good deeds that we can do in their merit. I'd like to highlight two specific mitzvahs that Judaism teaches are specifically connected to added protection. The first mitzvah is the mitzvah of mezuzah. Hanging a mezuzah scroll on the door of a Jewish home is a way to bring extra protection to our families and our entire nation as a whole. The three letters on the outside of a mezuzah are the Hebrew letters of Shin, Dalid, and Yud, which is an acronym for the words Shomer Daltot Yisrael, which is the guardian of the doors of Israel. Friends, please consider securing every Jewish home here in Olympia with the highest form of protection that we can. Whether you need a new mezuzah to hang up on your home, your office, or you have a mezuzah that needs to be checked to make sure it's still kosher. Because hey, what's a great security system if the Wi-Fi is down? We're here and happy to help in any way. The second mitzvah I'd like to highlight is a mitzvah that we are taught, Tatzil Mimavet. It saves lives. And this is the mitzvah of tzedakah. Tzedakah Tatzil Mimavet. As some of you may have noticed coming in, this is a little ark box. Okay, it's got the little shape of the ark. And this ark box, after the great flood, one of the 7 universal mitzvahs God gave to all of humanity was to be charitable and righteous. The ark, letters A-R-K, stands for acts of routine kindness, which this little box will help you do. On your way out, take one. Put it in your home. If you have a tzedakah box, a charity box in your home, put it in your office. If you have one there, there's always space in your car. Fill it up. Be a dime or even a penny a day. Once full, donate the content of your ark to any charity that you would like, and start the process again. These acts of kindness, these mitzvahs, are something we can all do spiritually and literally to help our loved ones who are hurting so badly in captivity. Tomorrow, our friends here are heading back to Israel. We hope and pray that miraculous news about the safe return of their loved ones will meet them as they get there. Please join me in sending them off with a filled out mitzvah pledge card, which you can find on your chair, as a message of strength and solidarity to be shared with the other families of the hostages back in Israel. Let's assure them that we are hurting for them, with them, and we will translate these feelings into positive action. We will strengthen ourselves and each other with as many good deeds as we can to merit their safe return. May it be speedily. Amen. You can drop off the cards, which will be sent back home with them, on the table right outside in a little gray basket.
Wait, can I? Hi. I don't know if you know what it is, but these are dog tags that are meant to show solidarity and support of the return of all the hostages. It says in English, "Bring them home now," and in Hebrew, it says "Halev shelanu shavui be'Aza," which means our heart is in captivity in Gaza. So We have some here to give you if you would like, and we are hoping that you all wear it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you again for sharing that. Thank you, Rivki. We're going to conclude in a moment. And I just wanted to mention that there's also refreshments on your way out. There's soup, there's refreshments. Please feel free to help yourself. And we share good news very soon. Thank you so much for coming. And we'll conclude with the song of Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav. Uyaseh Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Thank you so much. We share good news. Laila Tov. Good night.